Hello everybody, I hope that you are having a wonderful day. I am currently coming to you live from the classroom. I do have a live audience with me today. I have some younger students that are just watching me film. So if you do hear a little bit of coughing or anything like that, that is what that is. So I am going to do another plan with me video. So I'm going to unpack this question, which now that I'm looking in the viewfinder can see it's a little difficult to read. So I'll make sure that I type it onto the screen and I am going to show you how I would unpack this, how I would plan for it, and how I would form a thesis statement. So as always, what I recommend doing is pausing the video now and spending about 15 minutes doing this question so that you can practice and then come back to the video and compare and contrast what we have come up with. Okay, so this question has given us a cognitive verb, and that is analyze. So we know in the exam when we get a cognitive verb, we're going to highlight it so that we know what we're being asked to do. So we are being asked to analyze, which we know means to unpack. We know we need to answer the how and why. We know we need to be nice and in depth. So it's good to give ourselves those kind of reminders so that we know exactly what we're being asked to do. We haven't been given a verb in terms of what our author is trying to do here, but what I can infer is that we're looking at how Kent has made this significant. So I think that this is pretty indicative of the, verb of the author. Now our subject is going to be religion in burial rites. Now in order to answer this, what I need to do is I need to be able to have a good understanding of religion in burial rites. So we know that our characters in burial rites are Lutheran, which we know is a part of Christianity. So if we get into the exam and we can only remember that they're Christian, we can't remember what type of Christianity, just knowing that they're Christian would be fine there. We also know that this is one of our cultural assumptions in the text. And there's that vowel. And what we know about cultural assumptions are that they depict and underpin the way that the society is formed. So that tells us intrinsically that religion is a very important concept a very important area of the text for us to look at. Now when we're saying something is significant, it is very important. So it's not just important, it's very important. So we know it's of quite a high level there. So what we need to look at is just how significant we think that religion is in burial rites. So in order for us to answer a question like this, we have to have a pretty good understanding of the text, obviously, and the plot, as I always say, from cover to cover. So if I'm looking at burial rites, note that I'm looking at the entire text, and that's just for me, so that I remember. Now, what I need to start to brainstorm is, I'm going to have a think about the main things that happen. So, if I'm in the exam, I am just going to think, all I can do is use what I know, right? So I'm going to think of as many things as I can. So, for example, I might look at Agnes's execution. Seems like a pretty important part of the text to me. I might look at the murder of Nathan. I might look at Agnes moving to Cornstar. I am going to look at Agnes moving to Illaugusta. I could also look at the relationships in the text. So I could talk about her connections with Margaret, with Toti, with Seeger, those kinds of characters. I could look at Seeger's appeal. I can have a look at this as being one of the main events in the text. Like I always say, I could keep going here, and I do have a bit of noise that I'm competing with now, so I'm going to talk a bit louder. I could keep going here, but I think for now, this is where I'm going to call it. Now, what I have to look at, now that I've listed some of those key events in the text, is I'm going to have a think about, well, how religion is significant to them. Because for some of them, it's going to be at the core, and for others, it might not feel as much. Okay, Agnes's execution. Well, I'm thinking about like the hymn, about the hymn that exists. Good grief. I can think about the hymn that is one of the historical documents in the text. I could think about the fact that Agnes even is given a spiritual advisor. So the notion of this spiritual advisor is based on that of religion. Of course, we know that that is Toti. I can talk about the fact that she is condemned to death because of the fact that it's a theocracy. When I'm looking at Seeger's appeal, when I'm looking at how this is intrinsic of that of religion, I would start to think, well, perhaps it's contradicting that of religion, because it wouldn't be fair for one character to get an appeal over another. So perhaps it is quite ironic in terms of religion. I don't need to write that. So it's quite ironic. When I'm looking at the murder of Natan, obviously this goes against religion. Looking at Agnes moving to Cornsa, how is religion significant in that, I wonder? I guess she's subject to the family's religious views, but maybe not as much as we would expect. Now, when I'm looking at Agnes moving to Ilagusta, I'm reminded of her Natan not allowing her to go to church. I'm also kind of thinking a little bit about the fact that it's a theocracy. So I want to kind of add on to that, and I want to add on the idea of Bjondel and him making these kinds of decisions, his role. Because I think that he's a very important character there. Now, I'm also thinking about Toti and the fact that he is there for a religious purpose. So when I think about the impact that he had on Agnes and how changed Agnes is by the end of the text, I can't do so without reflecting on Toti. But the fact that he's there because of religion is really important in this question. So as I look at these notes, what I'm starting to see is that religion really impacts everything. However, the means in which it impacts it varies very much so. They almost juxtapose one another, because in some aspects we've got people acting based on their religious views, but in others we've got people justifying their actions through their religious views, and then thirdly we've got characters acting in a way that contradicts religion entirely, whether they would admit that or not. And I'm also thinking about the fact that Agnes's whole story is so heavily impacted by religion, because the way in which she is viewed by society, be it illegitimate or be it a godless woman, is going to, like, that reflects religion, right? So how her story would not be the same at all if she didn't live in this theocratical society. So I think that religion is entirely significant. I think that I think that it is at the core of the entire text. However, I think it is done so in varying degrees. So I need to kind of come up with a thesis statement that reflects that. So the significance of religion is paramount. However, it's a lot. As I journey through this career into YouTube stardom, I am learning that I love a good abrupt ending. So obviously when I said it is a lot, that's not really going to be a good thesis statement. So my challenge for you now is that you've watched this video and you've done your own planning, you've watched my planning or brainstorming, I suppose. I want you to come up with a thesis statement and I want you to email it to me, and I'm going to tell you what I think. There's your challenge. Are you going to take the challenge or not? Okay, I love you all very, very much, and I look forward to seeing you soon. Bye!